tapai ko tātou tērā. O reira, he mi atu rā ki a koutou, ko piri mai, ko tata mai, ko ono anōra ki tēnei o ngā kōrero. Te kōrero o te pō e pāniki o tātou nei karakia, ko te karakia o te marama nei. No reira, te pai te kite anōra i ngā kanoi o ngā wānau, ki te rāpito o te motu. No reira, uri no o te motu, tēnei te mi kau, me ngā mate. Ngā mate ko koutou e kaue, ngā mate ko mātou e kaue. Ara, te tuku atu rā, te mi ki ta anau pōkere, i te wea ngā atu ia emi. No reira, rātou te unga mate ki rātou tātou anō, rātou unga mora ki tātou, no reira, tēnā tātou. Ara, ka timatake rā, tātou kōrero ki te karakia, ka tai rā ka kōrero e pāniki tō tātou karakia mo te kaupeka, mo te marama nei. No reira, ka aro atu rā ki tō tātou waka, me tōna karakia, tōna wairea. Ara, ka rere manu ki uta, ka rere manu ki tai, ka ki wai o rai. Ka tutu a uio i nuku, ka tutu a uio i rangi. Ka ruku, ka puia, ka taupua, kaimata nuku, kaimata rangi, kai te uro o waikinui e tauana. E rongo e o kiriaki ki ronga atu, turu aka maua kia tīna, tīna, ui e,
tai e.
So over the last couple of months, we've been catching up on our karakia. So we've been doing 2 karakia a month. Now we've all caught up. So we'll just be focusing on the karakia for this month. It's a lovely karakia, this one. So we'll have a bit of a kōrero and then demonstrate one way that it can be done. Could you move through? Of course, for our kaupeka, for our marama, ongongoi, hurai, we've got this particular karakia. Sitting in the background on the image there, of course, is one of our key pass sites. So those who are familiar with the Uranui campground and have been there a number of times or played golf, you would have driven past this particular pass site right here. And of course, our pass site there called Te Uranui. And just in the background on the left, sitting behind Mahi Tamariki, of course, is another one of our pass sites, Pohokura. So two important ones for us, especially at the river mouth there of Uranui. So people may be quite familiar with this particular karakia. You may have heard it, you may have done it yourself. You may have heard the much longer version of it that has about, e warupea, e iwanga uti. So about 8 to 9 verses, but it carries a particular tune when it's done. As we can see, one of the key words in the karakia, or 2 key words, is heata. So of course, many of us would be familiar with that word within the context. Heata to mean morning. This you may hear a version of this karakia in Waikato. You definitely hear a version of this karakia here in Taranaki and down in South Taranaki in particular. This is the first whiti or the first verse of the much broader karakia. Those who are familiar with our poi manu and some of the waiata that are used, such as ki mai, peraoki, it carries a very similar tune. And we'll have a go at that just so that everyone can practice this. I've used it and I've taught this one in particular for the morning, but it's a real nice, simple little karakia that you can use in a number of different situations. So if we just go through the initial understanding, just looking at the words. So bear in mind, heata in reference to the morning. So heata ki runga, of course, the morning above us. We'll just take the literal translation first. Heata ki raro, the morning below. Heata ki te oka tutu. So tu, of course, would be familiar with that as as stand. Those who are familiar with the meaning of paritutu in New Plymouth will see the reference there to being steep. In this regard, it's the morning that's starting to rise, that's starting to come up, that's starting to stand. Let's use the word stand because that's a familiar word for us. He ata ki te oka rito rito. So of course, rito, we may hear that in relation to harakeke, but rito in this context to bloom, to blossom. And as we think of that, we can sort of think of the different phases of the morning that this is referring to. So the morning that's just starting to begin, and the morning that's just starting to blossom. He ata whiwhia. So whiwhi may be familiar with that one in terms of to receive or be in receipt of. So the morning that's before us, he ata rawea, the morning that's been established. And he ata taonga, so the morning that is a treasure, the morning that is a gift for us. He taonga, to then just finish off this. Normally you don't see the he taonga at the end when you do the full 8 to 9 verses, but it's just wrapped up there because you can use this specifically either for the ata or for taonga. We've definitely heard this one being used for taonga. So while it could reference actual physical taonga, it could just reference, and it does reference, the taonga that we see in the morning. So all of the signs, all of the indicators that we consider when we see the morning, we see the dawn, we see the sunrise, we hear the birds. We especially about this time of the year, we feel a crisp in the year. You may see a bit of mist, a little bit of fog, but these are all indicators of a beautiful day to come. So that's just a brief understanding around the actual translation of it. If we just look at the words, but I wondered, Jamie, if you wanted to dig a little deeper into the types of imagery that we see within these phrases.
Ka pai. Ko kapi katoa pēr i a koe, Mitch. Just hei tāpiritanga, just in addition to what Mitch has provided, he karakia karanga taonga. So in all of the manuscripts, they refer to this particular karakia as he karanga taonga, he karakia karanga taonga. And in that regard, you can see the imagery that is projected in this sort of first verse. The version that is sung by Waikato was gifted by Taranaki to the kingitanga. I'm just trying to think, it might have been the 75th or the 100th anniversary. And it was quite fitting because our old people were quite clever. They were using the imagery because, of course, we had Te Ata. Te Ata was, at that point in time, the monarch, so the queen. And so you will hear Waikato Tainui singing this, Te Ata ki runga, Te Ata ki raro. A different rangi to Taranaki, they use a Waikato rangi. And they've further adapted the waiata by using tuheitia ki runga, tuheitia ki raro. Tuheitia ki te wakatutu, tuheitia ki te wakarito rito. So that's sort of referencing that. And the reason why this particular karakia was gifted to Waikato Tainui was because it, tēnei mea te kingitanga. If we think about the kingitanga, it's a taonga for us. And so I think just in addition to Mitch, the beautiful thing here is, ata is also, it talks about the morning, but ata also sort of refers to things taking shape. And so, he ata ki runga, so think about it as, that with that morning light and as the new day beckons and dawns, things are taking shape, right? And so you start to see all of those elements above taking shape, all of the sort of, which are some of the metaphysical, and then you see some of those physical aspects of the landscape taking shape as the light sort of hits. He ata ki te whakatutu, as Mitch has said, that it's amazing when you see that morning light, and as it sort of it bounces off the landscape. And then heata ki te whakarito rito. Rito, of course, is things shooting up. So, you know, that light is quite dynamic. So it shoots. And then what I love, heata whiwhia, heata rawea, heata taonga, which reminds us that, you know, with the dawning of a new day or a new opportunity or a new kaupapa or a new relationship and those sorts of things, you know, comes these blessings, is how I sort of describe it, you know, the blessings of what is new. And so it's all very much part of that renewal process. And hence why when you think about this karakia, I mean, it's beautiful. And I encourage, you know, to do it you can do this in the morning, and it's a good sort of ritual for ourselves to sort of get in that habit of acknowledging the new day in the morning, and a good way to sort of center ourselves. I do a little one with my baby, and which is an offshoot is just no mai e te rā, kawea mai ngā hua. So welcoming the new day, receiving those blessings. Hei whakatau mai, hei whakatau atu. For me, but also for others, turu turu o witi waka maua kia tina. And so this is a much more sort of elegant way of that shorter sort of version, which I've got for my tamaine. Yeah, so I think that's you can see the imagery, right? So light, things taking shape. And when you think about that in the context of how it can be applied, as Mitch said, karakia niata, but he karakia karanga taonga. And so, you know, as a karanga, as a karakia, as a taki, you know, if a taonga is being placed on the marae, or you can actually use it when, you know, a lot of our whānau new roles, new jobs, often heata was recited, because, you know, it also again references new possibilities, new opportunities. And, you know, when we think about taonga in a broader sense, these sort of blessings that and gifts that we have before us. And as we know, with all of these things, if we've got the right intentions, the right attitude, and we can take hold of those things, you know, this really centers us. But yeah, it's beautiful.
And we've discussed a number of, or in previous Wānanga as well, Jamie, around the transition between night and day. And this one speaks to some of that as well. So we know that there are different phases in the morning. This expresses them in a different way, as heata ki te waka tutu, heata ki te waka rito rito. But we also may hear terms such as te ata tū, te ata pō, te ata tū, te ata āpara. In a mini karakia, you see those types of references to the different phases of the growing of the morning. And I like what Jamie refers to in terms of the taonga, that it's not just the physical taonga. Could be a person, such as mentioned, coming into a new role. It could be a kaupapa that's just been discussed, or a kaupapa that's brand new. Or it could just be a reason for coming together. All of those are taonga for us. And within those situations, this is a lovely karakia, a taki kōrero, a taki karakia that you could use to acknowledge that. If you find yourself at a marae or at a workplace and a taonga, an actual physical taonga is being gifted, this is a lovely way to acknowledge that process that's happening as well, the gifting of the taonga. Yeah. And it could either be done beforehand or as the taonga is being gifted across.
And then you can sort of adapt it, right? So at the end, you know, heata taonga, and if you're receiving the taonga, hara mai te taonga at the end. So, or huatu, you know, or tuku atu te taonga, or he taonga ka tuku. So just think about that as well. I was just thinking, Mitch, one of the other Wanganui have a very similar, well, it's actually almost the same version, but just slight differences, which is called hihira, which they perform sort of annually for the kingitanga. And their narrative around hihira was that it refers to pairangi. I don't know if we've heard of pairangi, the sort of bird or the tupua, where the sort of Whanganui people descend. And so their particular karakia is linked to the narrative of Pairangi, and Pairangi being a taonga by a tupuna called Taukoi. So just for your information, so you might hear a very similar version which is sung by Whanganui, which is called Hihira, which is, it's almost the same words throughout, just slight differences.
And if anyone has copies of the old CD that was distributed through Te Reo Taranaki, it's got a compilation of Taranaki Waiata and Taranaki Karakia. This one is in there, and the much longer version of this one. And if you've got the book, you'll see all of the different verses that there are for this particular karakia as well. So I'll provide the rangi, and then just give you guys an opportunity to hear it. I'll run it through a couple times, and when you're comfortable, you don't have to put your sound on, but just as you're sitting there, when you're comfortable, just start to participate and just start to follow along with the rangi. Because I find that when you get the rangi, it also helps you to remember the words. Actions are really useful as well. So you may see me do a couple of actions that just help me to remember. So I'll start it off. It doesn't necessarily need to be a tāne that starts it off. But I'll start it off for us today. E ata ki runga, e ata ki raro, e ata ki te waka tū, e ata ki te waka rito rito, e ata iwia, e ata rawea, e ata taonga, e taonga. So within that, there's a couple of points where it drags. There's one little half note right at the end for he ata taonga. So I'll try it again. E ata ki runga, e ata ki raro, e ata ki te waka tū, e ata ki te waka rito rito, e ata iwia, e ata rawea, e ata taonga, e taonga. You can wrap that up just as we've been able to wrap up the other ones. So you can say tū turuwo iti waka maua kia tīna, tīna uie tai kie. And with this one, it's important that it does get wrapped up at the end. It's important that is said so that it closes off this particular kōrero, this particular karakia. And just responding to Teresa's katoa, yes, the same rangi as on the CD. So I'll try that again. E ata ki runga, e ata ki raro, e ata ki te waka tū, e ata ki te waka rito rito, e ata iwia, e ata rawea, e ata taonga, e taonga. So just in that he ata taonga, there's a bit of a half beat, so you come in just a little bit quicker. We try that again. E ata ki runga, e ata ki raro, e ata ki te waka tū, e ata ki te waka rito rito, e ata iwia, e ata rawea, e ata taonga, e taonga. Tū turuwo iti waka maua kia tīna, tīna uie tai kie. Yeah, was that the particular karakia, Jamie, at Okitarangi? Yeah,
we did do He ata was one of the 4 or 5 we did, yeah.
Yeah, just in response to Rawania's question.
Oh, ka pai. Yeah, tika tērā, Rawania.
Yeah, so it's nice taki, this one, and as I mentioned earlier, it's a similar taki to perahoki, similar taki to ki mai. Ka pai. I'll run that through another couple more times just so everyone else can have a go. Again, we're recording the session, so I'll make sure that the recording gets out for you too. E ata ki runga, e ata ki raro, e ata ki te waka tū, e ata ki te waka rito rito, e ata wiwia, e ata rawea, e ata taonga, e taonga. Tūturu o te waka maua kia tīna ui e tai ki e. E ata ki runga, e ata ki raro, e ata ki te waka tū, e ata ki te waka rito rito, e ata wiwia, e ata rawea, e ata taonga, e taonga. Tūturu o te waka maua kia tīna ui e tai ki e. And I'll just run through that one more time. E ata ki runga, e ata ki raro, e ata ki te waka tū, e ata ki te waka rito rito, e ata iwia, e ata rawea, e ata taonga, e taonga. Tūturu o te waka maua kia tīna ui e tai ki e. Ka pai. In just in response to Sandra's question, we'll try to grab the audio from that particular CD, Sandra, and then we'll provide the words as well, just as another learning resource for the whānau.
Kei au katoa I rāo, waiata ki te rorohiko, Mitch.
Okay, ka pai.
Ka tukuna atu ki a koe.
Cool. Kōrero tāpiri, kōrero anō, whānau Jamie?
No, so the key thing, whānau, just, I mean, the context, morning, but any new opportunity, I mean, those of our tāne, you can also use this as a, to begin, karakia, to begin a mihi, depending on the kaupapa. You know, hea te taonga, haramai te taonga o tēnei hui, o tēnei kaupapa. So again, you know, as we've discussed throughout the course of our wānanga on our karakia, just understanding context and then sort of applying the karakia in the right context. So this one again is quite versatile given, you know, the nature of the kōrero.
Well, at Wānanga, when we do karakia in the morning, karakia ki te urunga mai o te rā, so when we do karakia and karanga for the rising of the sun, I've heard wāine use this particular kōrero or these kupu to be able to do their, to add to their karanga. Ka pai. Ka pai. So as I mentioned when we started Wānanga, we're now on to, we've caught up with our calendar and the karakia. So we're doing one karakia each month. So rather than the sessions going for about an hour, they'll probably just go for about 30, maybe up to 40 minutes, depending on the length of the karakia. But again, this is a lovely one. I really like this particular karakia, and I've taught this one a number of times to many different groups. I'll just put that there in case you wanted to do anything with that one, Jamie, but just to acknowledge, and we're happy to send out those words. The right hand one, you're right, te rā matariki, you'd be familiar with, and many would be familiar with that one. But just thought I'd add those ones in, and again, we can share these out. Just given the time of year, we've just had We've just celebrated the public holiday for Matariki, and we've thought of those who have passed during the year that's gone. We've sat together, we've had dialogue around the year ahead and some of the things that we need to consider. So that's a two lovely karakia in relation to this particular time of year. So again, we've just got our dates there for the next up and coming Wānanga. So next one being on the 3rd of August. So we hope that you're finding the calendar really useful, and that you're able to have words there in front of you and be able to practice a karakia each month, and reinforced by these little sessions that we hold each month as well. If you haven't seen already, you'll note on our website through the media page that there's a link there to our YouTube channel. So the YouTube channel's got all of the other karakia online wānanga that we've done. I think the latest addition to it was the quarterly update. So if you haven't had a chance to watch that, or if you just want to get a little bit up to date on some of the happenings with the iwi, that's a good 2-hour watch. But we do cover quite a bit of kōrero within that.
Emphasis on good 2-hour watch.
Yes, and picking up on Sandra's question, there are 2 Ngāti Mutunga YouTube channels, and we're just sorting through that to try and get everything onto one. But if you do follow the link through the media page on our website, it'll take you directly to the right one that has those particular recordings. Just outlining a couple of kaupapa that's ahead of us. So at the moment, we're going through the Remediation New Zealand Environmental Court hearing that's been part of this whole week. So we've got another 2 days of that. The Puanga Wānanga, so really keen to ensure our whānau are able to participate in that. We've talked about it on other occasions, but we've got one of our whānau, Nick Rattenberry, who's coming to talk from an astrophysicist perspective around Puanga and around Matariki. He'll also be with Ruakere Hond, who will talk about Puanga from a Taranaki perspective. And it's an opportunity for us just to get some discussion going around how we would like to acknowledge and how we would like to celebrate Matariki Puanga in these next 9 years. Well, at least 9 years. It gives us the next 9 years to start to plan ahead and ensure that we are recognising and acknowledging that particular time of year in a meaningful way. We're also planning toward a Pohutukawa Wānanga. So we've got a number of cuttings from a very old Pohutukawa tree that's on our coastline. And we want to be able to take those out. We initially talked to Anna about the importance of that particular rako and some of the history that surrounds that rako. And then we'll go out and we'll do some plantings around Urenui and Nairo. But just another good opportunity, Anna, for us to get together, for us to spend time together, for us to have kōrero around some of our important kaupapa. Just in terms of the Puanga Wānanga, again, that's both in person and online. So those who don't live in Taranaki, you're still able to join in, to listen, and be able to participate through Zoom. But those are some of our kaupapa that's happening for us this month. Yes, that's correct, Teresa. It is. So Taranaki iwi also have a kaupapa on the 23rd. And that's the wrap up of their online Paipai Wānanga that they've been having. It's more that the timing, because it's in school holidays, and we want to ensure that we're involving whānau, involving tamariki and rangatahi as well. So it's a shame that it does clash, but yeah, we're still quite keen to continue with that 23rd date. And just given the time of year, of course, around pipiri, ongongoi, ko te wā o te makariri. So it's a time when it's cold outside. We see the flu starting to kia tautare werewa ki runga I a toto, so we can contract flu and can feel a little unwell. So for those who are local, these are some of the places where you can reach out and seek some assistance. So especially up here in North Taranaki, Tui Ora, got their 0800 number there, and just down in the south, our Ngārua Ene Wānanga, Ngāti Ruanui Wānanga, also look after us as well. So just bearing in mind that there are these three organisations who support our communities, our Māori communities, and support our whānau. So if you feel the need, please reach out to them. Is there any questions, any pātai that's brought us to the end of our kōrero for tonight? This seems a little shorter than last ones, but it's probably just a good little half-hour snippet, half-hour kōrero around one of our karakia and just a couple of updates from our end. Kōrero, Jamie?
Atu I te mihi kia tātou. I think just in addition, we've been running our Wai Kōrero Paipai Wānanga. So we've had 2 of those to date, and I think, Mitch, we're just working out a plan for our karanga wānanga, which I think for our tamawahine on our call, so that will be coming out once dates and kai hapai are identified.
Yeah, but we're quite keen on just holding something at the pā in these next couple of months, just bringing everyone together, just to have a kōrero about the paipai as well. So we'll keep everybody updated on that. Nō reira, wai o tū rā te i o te kōrero I a Jamie, rā ko te mihi atu kia koto, ko uru mai ki tēnei ware kōrero mo te pōnei. Kia rongo ake e tēnei karakia, e pāna ki te ata, me ngā taonga ko area mai e te rā, I a tamanu I te rā. Nō reira, tēnei te mihi kauru atu kia koto, ko toro mai, kia are taringa mai, ki ene o ngā kupu o māua nei ko Jamie. Nō reira, ka akakapi ake rā, tēnei kōrero, tēnei ui I ngā watangi I tīmata ai. Nō reira, ka taki tete I karakia, kia wakakapi pai ai tā tātou kōrero o te pō. Nō reira, o mai manawa nei e tū e o mai tō waironga ora e ora ko tō manawa ko taku manawa. Tēnei o ki tō manawa ka tīna, tēnei o ki tō manawa ka toka, tēnei o ki tō manawa ka pautaiki. Tī nano o tā manawa ora e ora ko tō manawa ka tōku manawa. E manawa ki miia ki a koutou, e manawa ki a rawe ake tēnei kaupapa. E rungu e wakiri ake ki runga, tū turu o uti wakamaua ki a tīna, ui e,
taiki. Tēnā tātou.